I be like, sheesh, sunset on the beach. Make me wanna pull up from Miami with the heat. I don't know about you.
Welcome back to the Anytime Sports Podcast. This is week 3 of the NFL season, I believe. Yes, it is. And this week we have a lot to catch up on. We're going to go straight into the week 3 action, then hit you up with some NFL news, some lock steals, kind of an even keel kind of episode over here. Let's head into the first one. Our Chicago Bears end up losing this one against the Indianapolis Colts. We're only focusing on certain games this week. Let's start off with the heartbreaker that was last week for the Chicago Bears. What were your thoughts on this game? If I can get the score up. Yeah, it was 21-16. Very ugly game for both quarterbacks. What were your thoughts?
It's just so sad if you're a Bears fan because this game, I mean, both teams looked garbage, honestly. If you watch the game, you saw Colts did not look good. Anthony Richardson did not look good. He threw some awful picks. But at the same time, for the Bears' sake, you got a bright side. You got a little bright spot out of Caleb. He threw 52 passes, completed 33 of them for 2 touchdowns. But those interceptions are what's really nagging him. One really big thing is the connection he has with Rome now. 6 receptions, 112 yards, and a touchdown. Cole Kmet, 10 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Seeing this out of your young guy in week 3 is great, especially with the circumstances he's put in with this line. But at the same time, this is a game you got to win. This is a game with Anthony Richardson went 10 for 20 with 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, 23, 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a game you got to win. There's some bright sides here for the Bears, but you got to win this game.
This is where we disagree. Because I think Caleb Williams had an atrocious day. I think he was only padded by his stats towards the end of the game when they were playing prevent defense. This team sucks. I mean, Shane Waldron coming in, he really needs to be fired after this game. There was no semblance of an offense. They couldn't get the run game going. The passing, they were relying on Caleb Williams, and you can't really do that. And Caleb Williams was atrocious on the deep balls, not doing very good. Mm-hmm. And he looks... By far, he's the only rookie quarterback that didn't get a win this week. I mean, if you look at it, Jaden Daniels gets a huge win. We'll talk about that later on Monday night games. But you got Bo Nix also surprising, winning in Tampa as well. Of course, that's not always from him, but he ends up getting a win. Caleb Williams doesn't get a win, which is very – I do caution with the Bears here. If they didn't get that win against Tennessee, we might be seeing an 0-5 Bears team and a schedule that looked – very easy to start the year. This coaching staff, the seats are getting hot right now. My question is to you, Andrew. Do you think Eberflus survives this whole season, or do you think he's getting fired halfway through the year? And you think they're cleaning house?
I know what you're saying. I know you didn't even want him to stick around for the season. But at the same time, if he can win games... And
you gotta fire him.
I mean,
he's not winning games. He's got a losing record as a coach. He's got talent around him now, and he's really messing up everything.
Yeah,
he's not a good head coach.
At the same time,
why are we holding on to him? Why are the Bears holding on to a guy that's got no semblance of any form of talent as a head coach? He hasn't proven anything.
I honestly trust Ryan Poles because with what he's been building.
Oh, that's another situation.
Poles.
My gosh, you trust him?
I trust
Poles.
You trust
Poles?
I trust Poles. I think Poles.
He makes one good trade not because of his doing, but because the Panthers staff is not very good. They send him over this no-brainer trade that any GM would have made, right? He's known for 3 years this offensive line has sucked. And guess what? It still sucks, and he's wondering, I've drafted mid-round guys to try to help replace it. Well, draft a guy in the first round. We don't need another wide receiver as a wide receiver 3. We had Keenan Allen, and we had DJ Moore. DJ Moore looking just fine. We already signed a bag to Cole Kmet. We didn't need a third wide receiver. Yes, Rome Odunze is a very good wide receiver. I'm not saying he's not talented. He showed this weekend he's very good. But you had time to address the offensive line, and you didn't. You're sending Caleb back there getting shell-shocked, and you're surprised when it doesn't work out. Classic Bears. I really don't think Poles is the greatest GM. If I'm going to be honest, I think he's not the one scouting the talent as much. I think our pro scouts for the defensive side have really helped us. With Jaquan Brisker is one of those second-round guys that I think could have been first-round talent that ends up being very good for this Bears team. But, I mean, he's made atrocious decision. Look at the decision to sign DeAndre Swift this offseason when you drafted Roshan Johnson. You had Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert, and you're like, no, we're going to send the bag to DeAndre Swift because he's the guy we're missing. The dumbest move ever. I said it at the time. It wasn't a good move. I don't know. Everyone's got to be fired here. I mean, they got a clean ship, and you're getting into another situation, exactly like they were with the last two quarterbacks, where you bring in a guy for his rookie year, he ends up getting canned, hiring another staff to try to fix the guy that was drafted here. We had it with three separate quarterbacks: Mitch Trubisky, drafted under John Fox, fired. Then they hired Matt Nagy to try to fix him. Well, Trubisky's the problem. Send away Trubisky. Draft Justin Fields. 1 year under Matt Nagy. Oh, Nagy's the problem. Send away Nagy. We have Justin Fields. Hire Matt Eberflus. Oh, it's Fields. Fields isn't the problem. Fields is the problem. Send him away. Oh, look. Draft Caleb Williams. Oh, we don't have the coaching staff to help him. We're going to have to ship off Eberflus. It's a constant cycle with the Bears. And the way they did it, They hired the head coach, then they hired the GM, then they hired the general manager. You usually do that the other way around. You hire your general manager, team president. My bad. You hire your team president, then that team president picks the GM he wants, which then picks the coach that they want.
Yeah,
it's hard to not. That's an order that just makes sense for everybody in the league, but it doesn't make sense for the Bears. I think you're a little bit more optimistic on this Bears team, but I think he's been nothing but a failure.
Yeah, I could see. I
don't know.
I could see what you're saying, but at the same time, he's got the talent, he's got the receivers, but like you said, he doesn't got the coaching. Like, you think Fields goes to the
coaching's atrocious.
Fields goes to the Steelers and balls out as a coincidence? No, they're 3-0 right now for a reason. Under him.
Well, I mean, they also had their coaching staff.
Oh, yeah.
I think their their offensive coordinator right now is Luke Getsy.
Yeah.
I think it's Luke Getsy, their offensive coordinator. Same guy in Chicago, huh? We're getting another rotating cycle. He goes somewhere else and does success.
Shows what happens when you have a good head coach and Mike Tomlin, but
it's just. It's frustrating, and also looking at the Colts, they get very lucky in this one. Anthony Richardson's hot and cold. They need to help him. He needs to get a little bit more consistent, but they end up getting the win there. Good for him. He didn't look very good at all in this game. But they need to start. If I'm the Colts, I know you're worried about the injury that he sustained last season, but he needs to have more power runs. The only way they get better is to have more power runs, opening up the pass, take a couple deep shots. We know Anthony Richardson likes to take deep shots, but we need to have that rushing attack, which they did end up going in the second quarter to Jonathan Taylor, which ended up really carrying this game away and leading them to victory. Jonathan Taylor having 23 carries, 110 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What were your thoughts on Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah.
Against his Bears defense that's really stopped the run, but not this week.
Yeah, exactly. This is like this. I guess this is a point once you put. I mean, Tony Pollard kind of ran over the Bears defense, but in the week before with Joe Mixon, they were really able to stop him. But Jonathan Taylor, basically, I'd assume the Colts. Anthony Richardson couldn't complete passes, kept throwing interceptions. They're like, okay, we're just gonna pound the ground. It's working. What ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's what they did with Jonathan Taylor. I think we should have enough. We have enough of Chicago at this point. Let's move on.
Let's go to some more positive news. How about the Red Rifle absolutely rifling the ball, coming off the bench, threw for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. Could have had a 4th touchdown, but he didn't end up having that. Deontay Johnson ended up catching it. But the Carolina Panthers beat Gardner Minshew's Las Vegas Raiders 36-22. What are your thoughts on this Carolina team, the coaching staff, making that transition from the beginning of the week, saying we're benching Bryce Young, going to the veteran guy? What does this say about Bryce Young, and what does it say about the organization itself moving forward?
Yeah, this is why you gotta love the NFL. Even when a team looks like it's out, even like I think I said last week or something, or I was saying to someone that I guarantee the Panthers are going to go 0-17. But that's why you love the NFL. because even when it seems like it's over, even when it seems like they're out, they're not out. Put a different quarterback in. Look at this. They're beating the Raiders. They're winning 36-22. It's why you love the NFL. But as for Bryce Young, I don't know what this means. I think it's a constant cycle in Carolina as it is in Chicago. Bad ownership results in bad coaching. Bad new quarterback. New quarterback doesn't do good. But at the same time, this could be Bryce Young's fault. So does he get traded? Does he stay there? Does he sit behind Andy Dalton? How long is Andy Dalton starting? Does Carolina draft another quarterback? Do they tank this season? I think the best option for him right now is to be traded. Miami's not looking hot. They have not led a single second in a game this year. I think Miami picks up Bryce Young, tries to develop him into what he was drafted in to turn out to be. But as for Carolina, I think you stick with Dalton for the rest of the year. He's older. He's not your guy, but I think I don't know, Bryce Young looked pretty bad.
You can't go back to Bryce Young after what happened this week, and I think Dave Canales has done an amazing job revitalizing people's career. If you think about it, he was with Baker Mayfield, Tampa Bay, revitalizing his career and his journey. He's a very good head coach. I think he's a very good offensive-minded coach. And I think all he needed was a professional quarterback to play quarterback. And what I mean by that is I don't think Bryce Young's a professional quarterback. I've seen this go around, and I kind of agree with it. I don't think he's athletically as gifted as he was in college to play this NFL game. I think he's too small, and he just can't deal with it. And the Carolina Panthers didn't have a bad offensive line. They got a decent offensive line, and they got some decent weapons out there. I mean, showing what they could do, Chuba Hubbard had himself a day because the quarterback was competent. 21 carries, 114 yards in this one. Was really running the ball at will. Deontay Johnson getting himself an amazing career-high day. He had 8 receptions, 122 yards, and a touchdown. Of course, Adam Thielen going down in the first didn't help, but really this Carolina receiving and rushing game, the whole offense looked great all day, giving the defense something to play for. You know, when you don't have that offense, when you look on the other side of the ball and you see Bryce Young's your quarterback, you're like, we don't got a shot to win this game. But when you have Andy Dalton, a veteran who's been in the league for a long time, has led some teams to some good seasons. I mean, he's no slouch. And coming off the bench, he's always good. Let's see next week when the teams have tape on him, see if he's going to do as good as he did this week. Because, you know, when you have tape on somebody, they become immediately vulnerable to certain positions. But talking about the other team, let's talk about the other team here. Gardner Minshew gets replaced halfway through the game. I think it's because they were losing so bad. There was no semblance of coming back. But it kind of leaves the quarterback controversy because Aiden O'Connell came in the game, threw a touchdown pass. After the game, their head coach was saying, well, something needs to change here. Something needs to change there. So whether it's at the quarterback position, whether it's because running the ball, they did not do very good. Zamir White has not been very good. Is it giving Alexander Madison more of the workload? Brock Bowers, who has been their bright spot on the tight end position, who they drafted this year, he didn't have the best game. 3 receptions, 41 yards, but he didn't have the best game. Tucker had himself a game, 7 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. He had a good game, but if you're the Las Vegas Raiders, where do you go with this quarterback situation? Because it's a little mucky. It's a little mucky. I mean, if you don't pull out a Minshew and you let him play, we're not talking about this.
Yeah, exactly. If you okay, my camera always does this. But if you pull out Minshew and put O'Connell in, that leaves you possibly a better chance at winning. But at the same time, do
you think O'Connell's a better quarterback than Minshew? Is that what you're saying?
No. Well, O'Connell led the team.
You're saying he's giving you a better chance to win. That means it's a better quarterback.
Yeah.
Which I disagree.
Minshew, obviously, you're a
Minshew mania.
You're a Minshew lover.
I'm unbiased. I get 100% unbiased.
I get why they took him out. They're losing by so much. Put your guy in, let him rest. At the same time, this could just be a slump for Gardner Minshew. It really depends on what the Raiders want to do, because Aiden O'Connell did have a decent game for playing the little amount he did. But at the same time, for Gardner Minshew, he doesn't got many weapons. You got Brock Bowers. I mean, you do have Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams, but as for rushing, nothing could really get going. The longest run of the game was 10 yards.
Yeah, they really need to fix up their rushing game. I think it's switching to Alexander Madison, but for some reason they want to give the ball to Zamir White for some unknown
Yeah.
reason. But I think also Aiden O'Connell's stats were helped by the fact that it was in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It was prevent defense that were leading by so much. You don't really need to play that much of a defense of role. But let's head to another upset of the week. Not many people saw this one coming as the Denver Broncos traveled to Tampa Bay and beat Baker Mayfield and the Bucks 26-7. Bo Nix on the day, 25 of 36 for 216 yards. Moving the ball downfield, actually. Looked very good in this game. Doesn't have an interception. Doesn't have a touchdown to his name. What are your thoughts on the Denver Broncos stealing this one in Tampa?
Yeah, Bo Nix is absolutely rolling, but at the same time, the Broncos winning this proves that there's yet another team that could possibly pull out in the end of the year. I don't know if this goes on the Bucks defense sucking or the offense for the Broncos is actually here, but Sean Payton, we know him as a great coach, and maybe he's finally got his guy. He's finally got his team. But let's flip to the other side in the Bucks. What does this mean for Baker Mayfield? He didn't have a terrible game, 25 for 33, 166 yards, touchdown, and an interception. Chris Godwin, 53 receptions for 1 touchdown. Top rushing on the team. Bucky Irving, 9 carries for 70 yards with a long of 32.
Very explosive. Very explosive.
Yeah.
Looks much more explosive than Rashid White, and I think we're looking at Bucky Irvin's breakout game coming out in the next couple of weeks here. If you look at both teams had the same rushing situation. I mean, Javonte Williams didn't do much at all. 5 carries for 12 yards. Of course, they were winning too, so they couldn't get the ball a lot to him. It looks like Javier McLaughlin didn't do as much. It's Tyler who gets the carries with 9 carries for 70 yards. He had a good outing for the Denver Broncos, but both need to figure out their rushing games if they want a semblance of success, because we both know Bo Nix and Baker Mayfield are not at will driving the ball downfield just with their arm.
Yeah.
Is this very much? I know you kind of touched on earlier, but for Tampa, where do you go from here? You're supposed to win this game at home. You fall to 2-1 in the standings. Luckily, New Orleans loses this one. Are you a little worried? Because this is a game you were supposed to win. You're at home against an inferior opponent, and with starting a rookie quarterback, scheming wise, you don't get the ball much to Mike Evans. Of course, you have Surtain on the other side of the ball, who locks up on the wide receiver ones. But talking after the game, they said they want to give the ball to Mike Evans more, and I think that's more of a recipe for success. What do you think Tampa needs to do to get back rolling against, who are they playing next week? They're playing the
Philly.
Eagles next week. It doesn't get any harder.
Yeah, I think what you got to do is flush it and move on, because your schedule doesn't get any more easier as you go on. They have the Eagles, they have the Falcons, who we know put up a tough run with the Chiefs, and then they have the Ravens and Saints, and then the Chiefs. So really, if the Bucs are going to prove to be a playoff team like they were last year, they're going to have to win a bunch of these upcoming games. But exactly, like you just got to flush this one, figure out your issues, watch the film, see where you can improve, move on. But I don't see coming out of this game, I don't see any red flags for this Tampa team based on how they performed the first 2 weeks. They won 37-20 and 20-16. That one was over the Lions. I don't see any red flags. Maybe there is some with that rushing game, but I think you got to move on from this and then take it to next week. Take it out on the Eagles next week, because this could be a closer game.
Speaking of Philly, let's head to that game as we have that one next on our board. Philadelphia ends up winning on a game-winning drive, ending up winning in a defensive game, 15-12 against the New Orleans Saints. And they were traveling away. What does this prove with this Eagles team? They're not winning them handedly, but they're winning them kind of ugly. But, you sometimes want to win them ugly to prove that you could come back and win these types of games.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Eagles, and what are your thoughts on the Saints, who are kind of kicking themselves this week, thinking, man, we just barely should have had that one, should have had it.
Yeah. Eagles put up all 15 of their points in the fourth quarter, which is crazy. And then the Saints put up 9, so this game was 3-0 in the third quarter, at the start of the fourth quarter. But this is something you need to probably need to question the Saints defense. How do you let up 15 points? How do you let up? It was a big Saquon run in the fourth. But Saquon scored 2 touchdowns, which was he had a huge game.
Saquon one.
Huge game.
Run. Yeah,
Saquon's
huge
always
run.
he's a big playmaker, but
Beast.
the Saints, you need to beat these big teams. You need to be able to hold fourth quarter leads. As for the Eagles, what does this say? Losing and not being able to score in the first 3 quarters. I mean, they can prove they can come back in games, but if you're going to want to be a high caliber team, you got to score in the first 3 quarters. As for the Saints,
it was really a defensive game, as you mentioned. I mean, both offenses weren't very high powered, and you think about the Saints, who had 96 points for coming into this game. Only put up 12. To hold them to only 12 is a very good thing, and especially since this Philadelphia Eagles defense has had some turnover in the past couple of years from their dominant defense. It's looked good for Philadelphia in this one. New Orleans just let one slip away. I think that's just because, I don't know, they just didn't. Derek Carr trying to do too much at the end of the game, trying to force it downfield when he didn't need to, and that's what I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. I don't think any of these teams are slowing down. The Saints looked hot, like really hot in the first 2 weeks, especially with that Cowboys win. The Cowboys are a team we might want to cover or might want to check on as the season goes on because they lost.
Cowboys, they lost this one. They came back. They tried to come back towards the end of the game. Ravens ended up winning this one 28-25 in this one. They really didn't have any form of life until the fourth quarter in garbage time, but Dak Prescott ends up driving them, and it took them a onside kick to even get this close.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens, Dallas Cowboys? As we mentioned earlier last week, I think this was a must-win game for each team. Baltimore ends up getting this one. What are your thoughts on Dallas? Do you think they're gonna? Is this very alarming? They're 1-2 right now.
Yeah, I would say it is very alarming considering this is their year. I mean, it's always their year. That's what the Cowboys fans always say.
Must win. Is it a must-win game heading into Thursday night?
Yeah. This was a must-win game this Thursday. They do have the Giants, which that game can be very be closer than everyone thinks.
I think it'll be closer than people think.
Yeah. So because the Giants did end up beating the Browns this past week. But as for the Cowboys, if you lose to the Giants, is it over? Like the Giants are. I mean, they won this week. They looked pretty good. Malik Neighbors is looking really good. But at the same time, the Cowboys, you're 1-2. You're 0-2 at home. You need to win these home games. And once you hit the road and once you start taking on some of these road opponents, like you're at the Giants.
They've been very bad at home.
You're at Pittsburgh. Then you're at home against Detroit. Then you're at San Francisco, at Atlanta. All these teams have pulled out some wins. They've squeaked out some wins. So the Cowboys could very well end up with a terrible record to start the season. And then once you're down, it's hard to get your team back up. But I want to turn to the Ravens. I want to ask you a question. So Lamar was 12 for 15, 182 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, Derrick Henry had a huge game. The Ravens started to peel away in the fourth. So what do you think it was on this Ravens defense that let them let the Cowboys score 19 points in the fourth and allowed them to bring this game as close as it was?
See, I look at it on the other side of the ball, and I say, Cowboys, how did you let this happen? How did you let Derrick Henry run the ball? I mean, this Cowboys defense doesn't look great at all, and I really don't think Baltimore's that good. If I'm going to be honest, I don't think they're that good. I don't think they're as good as people talking about, and they needed to get this win. They ended up getting it. Defense looked pretty good, but really a lack of a run game off of Dallas's front really hindering them in this one. If they could get a run game going, open up the pass a little bit earlier in the game, that we might be talking about a different story. Maybe Dallas ends up winning this one. But they weren't able to run the ball in this one. Baltimore getting Derrick Henry the ball is a very good thing. They needed to do it more in the past couple of weeks, but I think that's their only really recipe to succeed right now, because we know Lamar's not throwing it like for 300, 400 yards a week.
Yeah. That's
just not the way he plays. Not to say he's not a good quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's not that kind of guy. Defense, for Baltimore ended up playing pretty good. It was a bend but don't break at the end. They certainly didn't break at the end, but
Yeah.
we'll see how this team goes on um, in the next coming of weeks. Let's head into our Sunday Night Football game. Let's cover that one. The Chiefs end up winning that one, 22-17. What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, this is very frustrating for everyone that doesn't like seeing the Chiefs win. Patrick Mahomes, I'm just going to say this from a fan's perspective, is boring to watch in primetime. The Chiefs get so many primetime games, seeing them do good, it's like, I'm tired of this. But at the same time, for the Falcons, they kept this game a lot closer than a lot of people thought. I know there was that controversial call at the end where the defender didn't look, and then Kyle Pitts was trying to grab the ball behind him. There was no pass interference called. Refs just missed that per usual. But as for
the refs made a good play.
Yeah.
They're on Kansas City's payroll right now.
Yeah.
That was a good play.
Yeah.
Good call, good play for
Kansas City.
for them.
But I want to compliment Atlanta because you're going against this high caliber Chiefs team. They're 3-0.
They didn't like look the other way. They gave them a good fight.
Yeah.
We didn't expect them to win this one, but they gave them a good fight.
Yeah, Kirko Chains was 20 for 29, 230 yards with a touchdown. Darnell Mooney or Drake London had that touchdown for the Falcons, but at the same time, Rashee Rice had himself a game, the felon. 12 receptions, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Carson Steele, 17 carries, 72 yards. This could be their guy. Patrick Mahomes, per usual.
I don't think that that's the case. I think that it was very game script dependent. They knew where they were going to be up during this game. Getting Samaje Perine only been there for so long, so they were trying to get him acclimated to this offense. I think Carson Steele was the only one who's been there long enough for them. But as they mentioned, I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is coming back next week, so that's going to muddy up this running back field. I think it's going to be a three-head back. I wouldn't be surprised to see Steele's carries dwindle in the next coming weeks, just because of the amount of healthy players coming back in this one. But he did have a good game. So I'll give him that one exactly.
Yeah.
Really, Atlanta not having such a good thing on the ground. They had 16 carries, 31 yards for Bijan, and Tyler Algier outran him, and he had 7 carries for 32 yards.
Yeah, that's not
not really a great game. And when you're averaging 1.9 yards per carry as Bijan, that's not anything close to where you're supposed to be. So hopefully they get that one back up in this one. But I don't think the Falcons looked absolutely terrible in this one. Definitely. That was a bad no call towards the end of the game. I guess you could say it's a he said she said kind of call. It could be called both ways.
Yeah.
You win and you lose with the refs. I mean, you hate to see it, but you do.
Yeah, exactly. Like for the Chiefs, you hate seeing them win because they always win no matter who they're given. But this game, the Falcons kept it close. I think let's move on to this next one. Another team that's 3-0. The Bills versus the Jags. Colin, you want to lead it off?
Yeah. Whoa. Josh Allen's for real. I think he's leading MVP candidate right now. He surpassed Patrick Mahomes. He was 23 of 30 for 263 and 4 touchdowns. He was very, very good in this one. I think the real question, we knew Buffalo was going to end up absolutely torching the Jaguars. The real question is, if you're the Jaguars, where do you go from here? You just handed a bag to Trevor Lawrence. He's not the guy. He's not even close to the guy. He was an amazing college quarterback, and I think he's living off of that name, that he was a great college quarterback, to try to get him more playing time in the NFL. But, man, this Jaguars team just looks absolutely atrocious. In the fourth quarter, still running the ball with Travis Etienne. This team doesn't look very good, and I don't know anything to look up to. You hope things get better, but your division's getting better. I mean, you're not the front runner.
Yeah.
So, what do you do from now? If you're the Jaguars, what do you do?
Yeah. Really, this comes down to: is it coaching? Is it the players? Is it Trevor Lawrence not leading the team? But you're losing 3 games that you should have kept closer. Miami. They lost 20-17. Cleveland 18-13, and Buffalo 47-10. Your schedule's kind of not getting much easier. You have Houston, you have Indy, you have Chicago. So if you can win one out of those 3, that's all right. But you got to win at least.
It'll be Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. But At the same time, the Jaguars, we know last year were pretty good, and then they lost so many straight. And now they lost 3 in a row to start the season. So I'm going to ask you, what does this come down to? Is this coaching? Is this ownership? Is this Trevor Lawrence not being the guy? What do you think?
It's Lawrence. I think you got to look at Lawrence right now and say he's not working out. I mean, really, he isn't. They got the ball to Christian Kirk more this game, which is what they needed to do. And this one, Brian Thomas Jr. getting himself 5 grabs at 48 is pretty good. But I think Trevor Lawrence is not being accurate enough, and this offense is a major, major problem. And I think the defense is a problem as well. You kind of gotta make it work. You paid the guy. You're not really gonna cut him.
Yeah.
So you gotta make it work somehow.
Yeah, and
I mean, Buffalo with them, they're doing great. They're spreading the ball around a lot evenly, which is what you want to see and what they wanted to do. They don't want just one alpha guy. They want a bunch of guys in there spreading the ball around, which looks very good. James Cook had himself a game too, which he always does. He's looking like a breakout running back too.
Yeah, exactly. Now I want to look at another team that we actually did have 2 Monday night games this week. Another team that surprised everyone, the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels had himself a career game in his third start as a rookie. 21 for 23, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12 carries on the ground for 39 yards and a touchdown. Absolutely great game. Lights out for a rookie. And not to mention,
it's not like Joe Burrow didn't have a good game as well.
Yeah, he did.
He had a good one, 29-38 for 324 and 3 touchdowns. That's a pretty dang good game, especially with Jamar Chase hauling in 6 receptions for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a hard team to beat. On the other side of the ball, which is offense, but this defense of Cincinnati hasn't looked good in the past few weeks. What do you think of this defense? Do you think they can get it better? Because you need a defense come December.
Yeah, exactly. I think the defense is the reason they lost this game. Seeing the performance that Jamar and Joe Burrow put up, they couldn't really get the ground game going. Chase Brown led in carries with 62 yards. But at the same time, Joe Burrow, he balled out. You don't have a defense. Defense has no takeaways. You're going to need those takeaways. You need more opportunities in offense to score. If your offense is cooking, your defense has got to get those takeaways because you're not going to get wins of just offense. Football's a defensive game. You can score as much as you want, but if your defense can't play ball, then you can't win.
That is true. Terry McLaurin, after the game, saying he called his number on that last third down and short, throwing up to him and catching a 25-yard touchdown at the end of the game there. Really doing good. This is good for him as well. He had 4 receptions, 100 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jaden Daniels, really, this is his breakout game, and hopefully they can continue. And don't look now, but Washington Commanders are at the top of the leaderboard right now, and their division, the NFC East, goes as follow. Washington's 2-1. They're in first place. Philadelphia is behind them, 2-1. They're in second. New York Giants are in third, 1-2, and Dallas is in fourth, 1-2. And looking at the AFC North, which is going to be hard for Cincinnati to claw back in this one because they're 0-3 right now. Pittsburgh, surprising 3-0. No one really saw that coming. Baltimore, 1-2. Cleveland, 1-2. Cincinnati, 0-3. So I guess you're happy that Cleveland and Baltimore haven't kicked it up and win a few games. But it's hard for Cincinnati to come back from an 0-3. Do you see them doing it, especially in this division?
Yeah, I think they can, considering the record that the Ravens and the Ravens do have right now. But at the same time, this is a tough division. If the Ravens start to pick it up, which I don't know if they will, it's difficult. And then especially with Pittsburgh doing as good as they are they legit? Is Fields going to lead his team to the playoffs? And the same with Cleveland. Cleveland's struggling. They had a bad loss this week against the Giants. Like you said, the Bengals are lucky that not all the teams are doing better because based on how we project, or I at least projected them going into the season, the Ravens and Browns should have at least won 2 games. Mm-hmm. And if they very well won 2 games, the Bengals would be in a tough spot. But considering that the Ravens and Browns aren't as much ahead as they should be, I think you're chilling if you're a Bengals fan. You got to start winning games now, though, because your schedule shouldn't get any more easier. Next week you do got Carolina, then you got Baltimore, then you got New York, then you got Cleveland, so it gets a little easier. but you got to win some of these games, and we know the Red Rifle is balling out, so they could have a tough game in Carolina next week.
Yeah, they could have a tough game in Carolina next week. I could definitely see that going as planned. But let's head into some NFL news in this one. Ravens signed veteran pass rusher Yannick Ngakoue to their practice squad. Getting him in the camp, maybe need to sign him for the team to help this pass rush. What do you think of that?
Yeah, obviously all the teams need help, especially with the Ravens. Having this guy cooking in your practice squad, good reassurance for them. Probably will get called up at some point if there's a big injury. And now I'm going to get pushed into another big piece of news. Dolphins quarterback Skylar Thompson considered day-to-day with rib injury. If he's out, who do they start? Do they sign Ryan Tannehill? What's the deal going on there? Because Tua's out. We know he's on the IR.
I think they have another guy out there that won in the game. I mean, he's...
Let me look at their...
You kind of just got to look at it. You kind of just got to go with the flow right now. You can't really sign anyone.
Yeah.
I think you're just waiting for Tua to come back.
Oh, yeah.
Mike McDonald on Seattle Sereno start. He says we could be so much better. Mike McDonald, Seahawks head coach. And that's why I'm wearing Seahawks right now. They're 3-0, and people aren't talking about them.
Yeah.
They have a big test this week. If they can win this one, people will be talking about them. They're playing the Lions this week in prime time. So if they win this one, people are talking about them. I'm saying they're going to win it too. That'll come back in my next segment. But Seattle looking pretty good right now.
Yeah. Seattle's looking pretty good, and Miami's looking pretty bad. I looked, and Tim Boyle is who's in. Tim Boyle,
that's that. Yeah, I totally forgot.
The long-term veteran. He has his sixth season in the league, so he's 29 years old. Career backup, but as long as Tua is out, I don't see Miami being a contender. They got Tyreek, they got Waddle, they got
I don't see that at all.
But
Joe Burrow saying he's not happy enough after an 0-3 start. Yeah. But by no means is the season over. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think he's happy. I don't think anyone's happy in that organization. Starting 0-3 is not what they thought. Getting back Joe Burrow, they thought they'd have a good start to the season. Not very good in this start. Exactly. But, yeah, we already talked about them.
Yeah, just all around, it's an interesting week in football, considering an interesting year in football, to say the least, considering the Cowboys are bad.
Chargers safety Derwin James suspended one game after a hit on tight end Pat Freiermuth. That's a huge hit for the Chargers.
Yep. And then,
Charger safety gone for a game. That's not very good.
Chargers offensive tackle Rashawn Slater expected to miss Week 4 versus Chiefs.
That's a huge one. That's a huge one. You know, you miss anyone from the offensive line, it hurts. It affects your quarterback's performance and all that. And
I want to touch on this. It's very interesting. Is this like a Celtics Shaq? Like what about Justin Tucker? What about him? He missed a field goal in this past game. He hasn't been hitting his field goals this season. What is this?
He hasn't been himself the past 2 years. I think you could arguably say that he hasn't been himself the past 2 years. He hasn't been the best kicker in the league. I think he's going through a slump. Kickers go through a slump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you gotta keep going with him though. He's a professional. He'll get out of it. And stuff like that, but you got to be very confident. You have to have confidence in a guy like that. You paid him the money. You're not going to cut him like that, so you got to have confidence in him. Luckily, the MRI shows Sam Darnold avoided a serious knee injury versus the Texans. Sam Darnold, I know we didn't really talk much about him, but he had an amazing game, throwing 4 touchdown passes in a win against the Texans, against a very good Texans team that held the Bears to lower points. Well, I mean, it was the Bears, but they held the Bears to lower points last week. So Vikings looking very good. Should be interesting to see whether Green Bay or the Vikings win next week. That'll be a good one. Maybe Jordan Love will come back and play this one. Very questionable for the game. Who knows with that one?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that.
You ready to head into our next segment?
Of course. Yeah, I'm ready.
We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 2 locks and 1 steal. We're not going to go through all the games. So I actually chose 2 steals on this one. I'm going to go with the Seahawks over the Lions, I know I tease this one a lot, but I think the Seattle Seahawks are for real, and I think the Lions have struggled. They have struggled during this season. I think Seattle, Kenneth Walker coming out of the injury, they had Zach Charbonnet, they got DK Metcalf, they got JSN. They got some guys there that could really do some damage, and I think they'll be able to do some damage. I have them winning that game.
Yeah.
At least for me, I think they're going to win that one. Who do you have as one of your steals, Andrew?
I am going to say for my steal, I'm going to put Tampa Bay over Philadelphia.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
Philadelphia is favored in this one. The over/under is set at 44, so it should be a higher scoring game. But I think Tampa Bay will bounce back off this loss at home, and they'll come out with the win here.
Okay. And like I said, I'm taking 2. I'm risking it this week. If I get this one wrong, then I don't get any of the steal points. I'm done for. We'll tally up what we got last week. We had what we picked last week. But we'll tally that up and see who's winning. But I'm picking the Rams over the Bears. Somehow the Bears are 2-point favorites, 2.5 point favorites at home right now. I think the Rams travel to Soldier Field and they beat the Bears. I think the Bears haven't looked very good in offense, very obviously. And I think Matthew Stafford will have enough chances on offense to drive the ball downfield and at least score 7 on them, so the Bears can't score 7 points. So as long as you're scoring 7, you're going to win the game. So I have the Los Angeles Rams winning that one against the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and unlike you, I got 2 locks on this week. Obviously, you can't bet against the Chiefs. So I'm taking the Chiefs as one of my safe locks. Do you want to go over your lock real quick?
I'll go over one lock, but I have to go over another lock as well. I had Houston. I had the Houston over. Who did I have for a lock? Oh, jeez. I guess I'll pick one off the fly here. We'll go through week 4 and let's see. Give me the Jets over the Broncos.
Okay.
The Jets playing. You know, I think they got some. I mean, it's going to be harder. Of course, the Broncos defense is harder than the Patriots, definitely. But give me New York. I think they're going pretty well in this one. And I had Houston over Jacksonville as my other lock. So yeah. I'll take the Houston over Jacksonville. We've talked about it. Jacksonville hasn't had a good. They're just really sloppy right now, and I think the Texans will have a bounce back game in this one.
Yeah. So my first lock obviously was KC over LA, and I think for my second lock, I'm going to say San Francisco over New England. New England's been spotty this first couple of weeks. They are.
I agree with that one. I think San Francisco is going to get back after them surprisingly blowing a lead this weekend. I mean, Sean McVay, great calls during the game to get him back into this one. Matthew Stafford leading game-winning drives. It seems like for almost half of his career wins has been a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
So, he's lights out when it comes to game-winning drives, and you need that in the NFL sometimes.
Yeah. So I think we should go over our picks from last week, tally up our points. Colin, your lock of the week. So how locks and steals work for us? We get 2 points for a lock. 2 points for a lock.
For a lock is 1 point. For a steal is 2.
2 points for a steal, 1 point for a lock. Colin said Bengals over Commanders. Obviously they didn't win, so he lost that point.
Oh, that's a bad one.
Yeah, I mean, going into this game, you can see it. You can say, hey, the Bengals are going to beat the Commanders. But
I didn't win a single lock this week. I had Tampa Bay over Denver. Yikes.
Oh, gosh.
I did win my steal, so I at least get 2 points this week. I got Vikings over Texans, so I have 2 points. Let's go into your locks, Andrew. You had Vegas over Carolina as a lock. That did not hit in this one. You had Buffalo over Duval. So you ended up getting a point there. You had Arizona over Detroit. Detroit ends up winning this one. So I'm actually ending up winning this one because I got my steal right with 2 points. We each picked one game correctly on the week. Not starting out very good. Not starting out very
Yeah.
good, are we?
Yeah, so yeah, you got one pick. You got your steal right, which was a good call, and then Buffalo over Jacksonville is obviously a good call, and that's why I picked Jackson. that's why I see you pick Jacksonville this week because how bad they looked. But
Yeah, let's see. Let's see how it goes. Who knows? I've been wrong before. Obviously, when you look at last week, my
Yeah.
track record wasn't very good.
it's hard to pick these. It's hard to pick these games.
Oh, very hard to pick these games. The NFL is so closely put together. Even though the bad teams, they could end up stealing one any week. So who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a very interesting week of football, to say the least. I want to highlight a few big matchups going on here. We got some NFC North play starting, Minnesota at Green Bay. That could be an interesting game.
That's a big divisional game.
Yeah.
I mean, those two are going to be fighting for the division. It doesn't look like well, they're going to be one of the two teams. They got the Lions, of course, fighting for the division as well, but that's huge. You need to win these divisional games. Winning divisional games helps you win the division.
a lot of divisional games kicking off this week, including New York and Dallas. That is Thursday night, and then you got you got Philly, Tampa, you got Houston, Jacksonville, and then I think a huge game this week is gonna be Buffalo, Baltimore. Buffalo's on a roll, and Baltimore is proving to be
that's a good game.
Baltimore is proving to be a contending team after coming off their win last week. So this is going to be a big test at home too. So Josh Allen's going to be on the road, but they are 3-0 and they are cooking. So
Who do you have in this one, Scooby? Do you have Baltimore or do you have what do you have? Okay, sniff microphone.
microphone.
Okay, microphone. Yep. I think he said he has the Bills in that one.
Yeah.
I think he's going with the Bills in that one.
I would agree on that, Scooby.
He's whispering.
Yeah. But it should be a very good week of football. Hopefully everyone's fantasy teams are hanging in there. I know mine have been iffy lately. I mean, it's hard to pick. Luckily this week I started Cole Kmet. I had Kittle out, and Kmet had a good game. I got lucky, 25 points there, but it is a very tricky week for fantasy. If you guys would like to see some sort of fantasy segment coming up, like a more in-depth fantasy dive, maybe we could reveal.
I want to be giving out my secrets.
Maybe we can reveal one of our.
I'm giving out my secrets.
Maybe we can expose one of our fantasy teams or something.
I'm not telling you my secrets. I'm moving the shadows. I don't like people taking my secrets.
I'd be willing to do that. I don't keep any secrets. But yeah. All right. I think it's gonna be a great week of football. I think we had some good coverage today on today's episode. A little on the shorter side, but like to keep keep it nice, short, and sweet for you guys.
Information through quick and our takes. So if you like it, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and we'll talk to you guys later, and we'll have fun watching all the Week 4 games.
Exactly. We love being back into it. Week 4 of ASP is back. Let us know if you guys want any other different segments or anything new, or if you like us keeping with what we got. We enjoy it. Hope you guys have a fun week of football. See you next week.
Oh no, we just begun. I like those colors.